had a different experience running two-side transition when I was in Guam, just because of personnel. We had a lot of guard type players. When I moved to Germany, I did not run two-side transition for the whole time we were there, because we ran a numbered break and still played quite fast. Head coach there was David McCray, and we were trying to get 80 shots a game. So that was like some of our measures that we tried to get in our transition. And we played a pretty quick clip. So we didn't run two-side transition, but obviously two-side transition is something that I believe in. Is something that I think is great for any level of team. I think it works better with some personnel. If you have dominant bigs, more than one, I don't think two-side transition is necessarily for that type of playing style if you have bigs. But I think if you have at least one big, I think you can still incorporate the two-side transition principles of play. And so now that I'm a head coach again, I get to go back to some of the things that I believe in, and this style of play and transition is something that I think not only builds players and develops them, but it's an exciting style of play. And I think I've changed some things that I thought two-side would be good for, and I have changed some of my perspective on it. But I think that just kind of comes with how we grow as coaches and things that we know that doesn't put our team in the best situation to be successful. So I'll go through maybe 3 or 4 clips here. This is on the YouTube video that's on YouTube, and I think coaches can access this easily. I think as we watch the film, I think the two-side transition, there's been so much on other coaches sharing on the topic. So I think there's a foundational knowledge already on what the two-side transition is trying to generate. So won't really go into the teaching side of it and trying to give the nitty-gritty details on why you should run two-side transition, but mostly give you a little background and then kind of dive into some drills and stuff that help you implement some of these principles. So right here, the first option is going early and opposite in two-side transition. So we have what we call our two-side transition reactions, or what are our rules in two-side transition. So the first rule is on the point of the rebound, everybody's going to find the nearest sideline in the first 3 steps. So basically, you draw that midline down the middle of the floor. If you're on the right side of the midline, here this player is on the right side. And you find that sideline, you sprint the sideline. And then the other 2 players are on the left sideline. So they find that sideline, and then they're going to sprint to either corner spacing, or they're going to sprint to the 45. So the 2 things that we talk about, and I don't really now say this a whole lot to the players. We just say find the nearest sideline, first players down, and get to the corner. But if you want that like visual cue for them, you can say sprint and hug. Other coaches will say other things, but basically you want them to play as close to the sideline as possible. And the reason for this is if you are playing down closer to more of the midline, it just makes it easier for defense to guard you. So we want to stretch the space on the floor, and we want them to hug the sideline. So playing as close to the sideline as possible. So these are things that we're trying to create here in our first 3 steps in transition. So again, first players down, get to the corner spacing. Early and opposite is a term that Chris Oliver uses with basketball immersion. I don't think there's any better term that I could use for this. I just kept it. But basically, we want to go opposite of our outlet as early in the possession as possible. And the reason for this is it moves transition defense twice. So you can see here already 4 defenders are on the right side of the midline. Here they're rim running with Capella, which is we don't rim run, and I don't believe in rim running with this transition offense, but we want to go opposite. And typically what happens when we go opposite to a 2 side. There's this 1 defender guarding 2 on the 2 side, and we get this extra pass from the 45 down to the corner. And theoretically, this is what 2-side transition is supposed to give you in transition. It doesn't happen all the time. And I mean, very rarely, maybe once a quarter will we get this. I think that the expectation of 2-side transition, if you're first starting out in it, is that you're going to get these type of possessions every single time, and it's just not true. So But this is like the ideal possession of what we're trying to generate within the two-side transition offense. So again, here you see that these two players are on the left sideline. We have this player here going to the right sideline. He's the first player down because this is their 5-man. He's in their rim run. And if a lot of coaches will ask me, well, I want to rim run my 5. And I think that if they're ahead of the play in this situation here like this, if you can see my mouse moving, then it's okay to rim run because, I mean, obviously the goal in transition is to get behind the defense. And if you get your 5-man to get behind the defense and run to the front of the rim, I think that's appropriate. But a lot of times, like our 5-man is cleaning up the rebound, and we want our 5-man to trail. So here's just here getting into two-side transition. I think the biggest teaching point that I have, not the teaching point, but I guess the biggest change that I've made in the two-side, like spacing on the two-side, is having the last player in the two-side sprint to half court, but once they get to half court, just almost slow down to almost a complete stop. And the reason for this is when we go opposite to this two-side, and the 45 is playing higher above the three-point line extended, because of the defensive transition principles with, they're in trying to get back and establish 5-on-5, building their walls. A lot of times, again, this one defender gets caught guarding 2. So we really want this guy to delay getting to the top of the three-point line. And the reason is because we really want to stretch the space in between the 45 and the corner. And we want to make it impossible for this guy to guard 2 guys on the 2 side. And with this, we have our 3 spacing rules. Let me rewind back here so you can see this. We have our 3 spacing rules in our stretch spacing. So these 3 rules are something that you don't really need to tell your players, but I think if you can understand the concept of what we want to do on the 2 side with our stretch spacing, it'll make more sense. But basically, we don't want one defender to guard 2. We don't want this defender to defend Westbrook's drive here and then get out on the corner and close out the corner with the extra pass. The last thing is we want to create 2 separate closeouts. So part of our transition defense roles is we want to win the first 2 closeouts in defensive transition. And because of the corner spacing and we're, the first player down getting to the corner, a lot of times we're going to create these 2 separate closeouts because if there's one guy caught guarding 2 and Westbrook drives it here at the 45 and he kicks it to the corner, I'll let this play out, then we're going to create a second closeout. So if he stays with Westbrook here, then somebody else is going to have to close out to contest this shot. In this case here, Westbrook drives it. He makes the extra down the corner. So now second principle in our stretch spacing, this defender cannot help and close out the corner, which we're trying to get all these 3, I guess, ideas involved in the 2 side between these 2 players. And we feel that, and it happens if you create these 3 things, if you get these 3 things of one defender can't guard 2, one defender can't help and close out the corner of the extra pass, or you create 2 separate closeouts, then you're going to get an open shot or you're going to get a driving line. So I guess that's the heart of what we are looking for, what our players are trying to look for within 2-side transition. I'll let this one play out here. This might be the last one that I show. But this is really kind of, I mean, it's pretty extreme, but this is the spacing that we're trying to get in transition here on the 2 side. So you see, I think that's Austin Rivers there. This is from a couple of years ago, but you really see that this stretch spacing is kind of exaggerated. But when we're in the 2 side and we get to stretch spacing, one thing that I've added that I don't have really very many clips of this is if we hit this 45 here, then we're really looking to drive this immediately. So this is something that it's just not about making this extra pass to the corner and getting the stationary corner catch and shoot shot, but it's also about driving this 45, trying to get a paint touch within the first 8 seconds of the shot clock and really getting defense in rotation. So I think that's something that I've added in the last maybe couple of months with my team is really emphasizing driving this on the catch. And we always say put pressure on the rim with your catch because if you don't look like you're going to shoot, then this guy can guard 2. So here, again, we got our stretch spacing between the 45 and the corner. And again, as you can see on the screen, we don't want one defender to guard 2. We don't want one defender to help on the 45's catch and close out the extra to the corner. And then we want to create 2 separate closeouts. So this right here will obviously lend itself to perfect possession and transition. So I think that's kind of what's the strength of the 2-side transition. And again, like these are all perfect situations, and it doesn't happen every single time. But this is what we're trying to get in transition. I'll end it there, Tony. And if we need to go back to some film, then I think I can kind of scroll ahead and get to those clips if we need to.
Let me ask this. As your team gets the basketball, do you have a set of progressions that we're looking for as a group, and especially the ball handler is looking for, so that it's not just I look up and there's a lot of things happening, but you're teaching them, I'm looking for maybe this first, this second, this third. I'm just wondering because as we taught a break last year, that really seemed to help my team as a whole, and especially the ball handler, to make the best decision. And I was wondering if you had something similar to that.
Right. Yeah, I'll pull up a Word document. I don't have any team film on this, unfortunately. I'll pull this up here. Can you see this, Tony?
Yes.
Okay, so this is like the initial teaching of what we do in practice with our transition. The first thing that we do is we try to emphasize the early and opposite pass. That's the first thing we look for in transition. The second thing we look for is the early and up pass, which is going up the same sideline as the outlet, because the opposite pass obviously is opposite of the outlet. And then we're looking to dribble push. So when I first got my team, this is the first drill that I did with them. So we didn't start 4-on-2 because this was too easy for our level. So we started out 4-on-3. But we have them in a circle. They circle rebound. The coach throws the ball off the backboard. And we don't designate positions when we first start teaching it. But I do designate a primary point guard, and we always outlet to the right sideline. Like, this is something that I think it kind of takes away gray areas. We don't outlet to the nail. That's something that I've changed. We always outlet to the right side of the floor if possible. And then we find the nearest sideline. So in this, if you can see this, I'll make it bigger. We want to outlet to the single side, and then we want to look early and opposite. So here in this situation, the 3-man is on the point of the rebound. He finds the nearest sideline. 3-man here is on the left sideline, but because we are outletting to the single side, it establishes our outlet, and this naturally becomes the 2 side. If these 2 players are here on the sideline. So if 2 was on this side of the midline, he got here, then 4 would have to make the outlet to the 1. And so that's how we would establish our 2 sides. So here, the 1, 2's the first player down. He gets to the corner. 1 is the second player on the 2 side. Sprints to half court. He slows down at half court, and he really delays to get to his spacing spot. 3 will outlet, and then now he's looking to dribble push, and then looking to go opposite to the 45. I don't know if you can see my arrow there, but this is what we're looking at. And then from here, when we get to it, a lot of guys just like to make this one more to the corner, catch and shoot shot. But what we had to do is we had to force this guy to drive the 45. The 3-man would fill corner, and then the outlet here would fill the opposite 45, and we get another 2 side on the left sideline. So that's kind of like our progression in teaching it. We put an 8-second shot clock on this. They have to get this shot within 8 seconds. Sometimes we allow them to just make the one more and then try to get a catch and shoot shot. Sometimes we say you got to get a paint touch within the first 8 seconds of the shot clock. But really, we just want the ball moving and not trying to overcomplicate it. We let them compete to a score. And then the second thing that we do is we outlet it to we outlet it to see if I can find it. We outlet to a 2 side. So let's see if I can find it here. This one here would be probably the best thing to go with it here. So now at the point of the rebound, I don't really like those to show. let's do this one. And the three here shouldn't have the ball, or yeah. So the three, so okay, I know. Yeah, three got the rebound on this one. It's been a while since I looked at these. So we throw the ball off the backboard. Three gets the rebound. He makes the outlet. So now we outlet it to the two side. So after you find the nearest sideline, we outlet to the sideline that has the two side now. So now the one and the two are on the right sideline. Four finds the nearest sideline because he's not the rebounder. Now he becomes the single side. And so we outlet to the one, and now we're either looking to go opposite to the four, or we're looking to go early and up to the two. And so this would be the second phase that we're trying to teach. Now we can give the early and opposite pass, but then now we incorporate the early and up pass. And a lot of things can happen out of these. I think in this example, one can hit ahead the two, and then he can hit right back to the one and drive it, or the two can drive it, get a paint touch, or we can hit back to the one, and then the one can hit the trail. Like there's numerous options, obviously because you have a numerical advantage of 4-on-3. But I think the guys are going to find a solution to that numerical advantage, and they have to because they have 8 seconds on the shot clock. So this is how we would teach it. And then last, we would add the dribble push. And basically, this dribble push is just another way to get into the transition quicker. So whoever gets the rebound will dribble push. The other three players will find the nearest sideline, and then it's the same situation from here. We would allow the dribble push to go early and up the same sideline and go early and opposite. In this one here, if we dribble push, and it's the same thing if we outlet it to the two side in the initial teaching. So the two players on the two side, we outlet it to the guy who's on top. We also would emphasize, because going opposite of our outlet is such a big thing because it moves transition defense, both in the dribble push and when we outlet it to the two side when we're initially teaching it, we want to go opposite immediately. So if the three dribble pushes and we hit ahead early and up, and the two side is here with the player one and player two, then player four, if he receives this early and up, would look to go immediately opposite to the two side. So it doesn't matter if you go opposite immediately off the inbound. Even if you go early and up to the single side, the single side can skip it. And that's another way to get guys in or defenders in rotations or defenders into long closeouts to create driving lines for guards to attack off the catch. So that'd be like the first thing that we show. We would do it 4-on-3, and then we would go 5-on-4 plus one, and then 5-on-5. So basically that would be like the way that we would progress to teach the offense.
All right, so it's safe to say kind of the goal of this and why a lot of people like it, you're not just pushing it, but you're moving the defense twice and attempting to get that outnumbered on the opposite side, whether that generates for you a three or a penetration. That comes by that early and cross to the opposite side. Do you find that as you're teaching this early on, do players kind of do they only see the early and up, or do you understand what
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
saying?
good question. Yeah, I think a lot of I think that early and up pass, yeah, it could be probably the early and up just as natural because it's like in the line of their vision. But like if you, the reason why we delay and hug, let me pull this up real quick. The reason why we delay and hug this is, I'll let this play out. The reason why we delay and hug is so that the point guard can see the opposite pass or to see the opportunity for the opposite pass. So if we don't delay and hug here, like we don't play this into a delay, and let's just say this player gets all the way to the 45. It's not pausing on me. Hold up here. Yeah, so if he doesn't stop here, sorry, Tony, it's my keyboard is not pausing when I hit the space bar. Let me go back here. So if he doesn't pause here and he continues his sprint to let's say free throw line extended or even to the top of the 3-point line extended, Like what I experience, what our guys experience is when we try to go opposite, like this player can pick that pass off, or this player will pick that pass off. So like one way to help them see to make that early and opposite pass is to delay at the half court. So now he sees that, he's open on the sideline, we can make this opposite pass, and it, I guess, naturally provides the vision for the point guard to see it, especially if say Harden's already in the backcourt and he's got ball pressure on him, then it's hard for him to see this. But if he delays, it makes I guess a bigger passing window for the point guard to hit ahead early and opposite. And so there's also a question I think on your Twitter was like what to do with or how to not generate so many steals when the ball goes opposite. And I think the reason why there's so many steals early on, or even at the lower youth levels, guys can't make that pass because of the strength off of one hand. But I think the biggest issue is where do you put in the second player on your two side? If you're running him to free throw line extended, like I used to do when I first started teaching the ball gets stolen and the point guard can't see it. But the higher you have the second player on the two side, obviously it's a bigger passing window and the point guard can see it. So hopefully that clarifies that question.
Yeah, I mean, just the longer you wait, the closer everybody, defender, two players on the opposite side are standing to each other, and I would just makes it easier to pick that pass off or get a deflection. I guess
Right.
the other thing I'm asking is, I heard you say somewhere else, you go early and up. That doesn't negate the opportunity that you still potentially have on the opposite side for a 2-on-1. Can you talk
Mm-hmm.
about kind of what's generated when you go early and up? It's not like early and up and the ball just sits there in the corner.
Right.
What have you found that typically happens next? And how can that still get you potentially a 2-on-1 on the other side?
All right. I'll pull this back up. I think let's just say Harden goes early and up here to the single side here. And if you can, like, I guess use a little bit of imagination because he obviously goes opposite. But um, if we go early and up, then like you still want to move transition defense twice. But now when you go early and up, now you get everybody to shift ball side. And again, if like defense is not getting back 5-on-5 and they haven't built their walls, then a lot of times going early and up, and then this guy skipping to either the 45 here, most likely, probably not the corner, then that would be another way to move transition defense twice to get guys in long closeouts. So, like, I think a lot of times in transition, we got to think that hit ahead has to be immediately. It has to be the ball has to cross half court by air, which obviously the ball moves faster than the dribble in transition. But like as you see here in this clip, they've got five guys back, but they're not organized. Probably not talking. They right now there's two on the ball, so even going early and up here in this example of the left 45 and then going opposite can still generate, I guess, that advantage that you're looking for in transition. So you can go immediately to it or you can go early and up. But I think what you got to look for in early and up, very rarely is this guy going to be able to catch and shoot. Yes, he could probably get one-on-one in a drive, but if that player is not comfortable with driving or if that player is not a good shooter, then that next tool that you can help them see is, okay, if I don't have a driver shot, then I can immediately skip it to the opposite two side. And then from there, we can play out of the closeout or play out of the drive, play out of the one more to the corner. And even though it's 5-on-5 here, it still can give you that same, I guess, trying to create a closeout within the first couple of seconds of the shot clock.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about early up and first sighted three. Just looking at I would encourage coaches maybe look at your statistics over the past year. I did it this last year and we were, I think, like low 20s 3-point percentage. So I said,
Mm-hmm.
no first sighted threes. But what I did find, and if people are watching, they may have seen that you still have a defense that's not just not organized yet, but they're also not sitting deep in the paint, which I'm
Right.
assuming often creates for you a baseline drive that may get cut
Mm-hmm.
off, but the baseline drive and the paint touch kind of have that sucking effect of the defense. And then you can cross it over to the other side, maybe with kind
Mm-hmm.
of like a baseline drift or even a
Right.
45 out to the other side, and you still get
Mm-hmm.
the 2-on-1 on the other side.
Right.
I'm more okay with that. I get a paint touch
Mm-hmm.
and then a kick out and maybe a three or a one more and a three. that still gives you
Mhm.
potentially a big advantage shot?
Yeah, and I used to encourage that three in transition a little bit more than I do now. I don't encourage that three unless it's wide open, and a lot of times we don't get that. Like we may get that once a game, but it yeah, I don't encourage that anymore. I think it just depends on if you got a guy that can do that, and we don't have a guy who can do that. We got guys who can catch and shoot, but so I've discouraged that as something that I don't do as much anymore either. We use a two side just to increase our pace, and maybe we don't get a three off the first pass, but we might get a three off of the first drive. And I think a lot of coaches are more comfortable with that type of catch and shoot three, not off the first pass in the first 2 seconds in transition. So I'm with you on that.
And that kind of transitions to what I want to ask you about next. If you have the personnel to shoot that three, maybe it is a great shot. But do you have a preference on where you're putting particular guys based off of skill set? Like who are those corner players? Who are those 45? You've said the trail guy is your five. I'm assuming he's taking the ball out of bounds. He's trailing even if the four gets the rebound, I'm guessing as well.
Hmm.
But
Right.
who's the opposite 45 and who are the corner players?
Yeah. So I've struggled with trying to figure out what I want from this. And I right now with my team, like we make the 5 man trail whether he gets the rebound or not, because we have true big men in our team. So when I first started teaching this to them in April, I was running the fives to the sideline. They may have been the corner guy, they may have been the 45, and they didn't know what to do. And um, we couldn't get into any of our transition sets. So I was like, what do I need to do to put the personnel better in a position to be successful? So we just decided that we will trail the 5 man off of misses no matter what, no matter where he's at. Then the one, like we play through a designated one on the right sideline is where we want our outlet. And then from there, we allow the 2, 3, and 4 to find the nearest sideline. And we play our 4 mans are basically threes or twos. And so they have a good skill set. And so we just let them figure it out. We let them figure out who's the two side, who's the one side based upon find the nearest sideline rule. And then oftentimes there's a three side. So obviously we teach them and show them what we want out of a three side. But we always trail the five because like even though we're in the two side spacing like transition template, we are always arriving five out in transition because we don't rim run. And so because we play either through a drag or an away or a pistol action, we want that five to be at the right spot at the right time. So if we don't get anything in transition, like it's a dribble push, the point guard comes across half court with the dribble, then like we're moving right into offense. And the next concept within maybe 4 or 5 seconds ticked off the shot clock. So that's my preferred spacing right now. When I was in Guam, our 5 men were just as mobile and maybe sometimes just as skilled as our twos and threes, just because of personnel. We were a more guard oriented team, but we were also smaller. And so we did things differently. And I tried that with this team. It doesn't work. And the fives were very uncomfortable with where they were catching and what they were doing. So we just trail our five.
This is kind of related to that, but what happens if you end up with an outlet, ball comes up the floor, and the ball is by itself, and you have basically all four guys on the left side of the floor or opposite the ball?
Yeah. Somebody talked to me about that. Um, and literally the next day in practice that happened. So um, whether it's a three side or a four side, I literally only seen it happen one time, and that was in that one practice. But we always cut the middle guy on the three side, and in this case, we'd cut the two middle guys. Um, but I think what you have to think about is we want the corner to be like stationary when the ball arrives. So whether that's opposite or up, like preferably we want the corner to be stationary. So we will never cut the corner, we would never cut the bottom guy. So we always cut the middle guy on the three side. If it's a four side, depending on where your 5 man is at, your 5 man is the last guy on that four side, then he needs to redirect to the the middle of the court, and then you would cut the middle guy, which would be probably the second to last guy, and then you would have that that third guy, I guess, on that fourth side. He would run the 45.
I'm not experienced with this, but I'm planning on doing this. It's similar to that. I would just rather the ball handler keep going up the floor. I mean, maybe that's a lot of space that he can maybe create his own advantage on that side of the floor. Maybe gets into like a Barkley, or you could
Right.
run kind of a naked ball screen on that side. I would also cut
Mm-hmm.
the second to the bottom guy, and you cut him
Mm-hmm.
through into the other side, and now you got your shape that you wanted there. So I guess it
Right.
kind of also depends on what you're wanting to transition into the half court. And so that's my
Mm-hmm.
next question. A couple related to that came in. The first is, what happens when you don't score off of this? What do you like to do next?
So yeah, we pull up my fast draw here. Um, no, actually, let me pull up this right here first. So the biggest thing that we run, like if we are in transition, like the couple of things that will call off like our guys trying to look for like going early and opposite or looking to get a paint touch. The first thing would be if obviously if defense is back 5-on-5, like we're not going opposite for no reason at all. So there's no advantage on that two side because it's 5-on-5. Point guard is not going to go early enough. He's going to keep it. And you'd be surprised at how many times like if you're playing a really bad team, you may get like a lot of this kind of transition threes and drives, but like good teams are not going to let you score in transition like easy. So we would use the spacing template to get to what we call our transition sets. So thumbs down is just it's just a drag with a 5. And so we want this to be quick, and this would be something that, we use the drag, and I'll show you the continuation of it, but we use it to teach not just our offensive pick and roll principles, but our defensive shell, our defensive principles. So like we're two-way teaching all of this. But I think a lot of times you will use the drag, but then it's like, what do you do after the drag? So I'll show you what we do after the drag here, but this is what we call a thumbs down. I learned this in Ludwigsburg, and I like how it flows out of two-side transition. So the 2, 3, and 4 are obviously like interchangeable for us. We prefer the 4 to be the last guy on the two side, but we hold the priority to find the nearest sideline. So 5 would drag with the 1. Obviously, we're trying to look to get a paint touch here, drive, kick, hit the roll. Just depending on the coverage, it really depends on how we are going to look to score off of this. But how we keep moving and try to keep the ball moving in after transition is if we don't have a scoring opportunity, 4 will kick to whoever's on the two side, and then we get into what we call a two side DHO. And from here, this two side DHO is always scoring. We're trying to like play out it. We call it a toss game. So 4 is not just like a stationary handoff; it's more of like a flick to the 3. 3 is trying to turn the corner. But if we can't turn the corner, then we always end with a rescreen. So what we call this is C action. So the 1 will come back to ball side. 3 can't turn the corner. He throws it to the 1, and then 5 sprinting on the air time of 3's pass back to 1 on what we call C action or a rescreen. And then now it becomes a middle ball screen going to the single side. So a lot of space here that we can attack off the dribble. The 5-man obviously is rolling on this. The 3 will fill behind, and like this is like something that from day one, this is the first thing we teach. What to do if we don't score in the first 6 to 8 seconds in transition. What do we do? The second thing that we do is open away. So if like we arrive into our spacing and like we don't have an advantage, then instead of setting the on-ball screen with the 1, the 5 will set an away screen with whoever is at the 45. So we do this 2 ways. The 1 can reverse through the 5, and the 5 can reverse it to the opposite 45, and the 5 can screen the 1. But a lot of times, like 1 will dribble across half court, and 5 just gets immediately into an away screen with 2. And obviously, we're teaching like how to read this screen, but a lot of times, if the 2 curls it, then the 5 pops back. I think this is the next thing here. Yeah, the 5 pops back, 1 throws it to 5, and then we play just a throw and go. We play out of a get, and that gets us into a middle ball screen. Um, the next kind of progression that we would do out of an open away would be 2 would come off of it, use the screen for either a catch and shoot situation, or just we would throw it to the 2, and then him coming off that screen puts him in a situation to play a ball screen. And so the 5 here would just turn into a ball screen, and now it's a 5-2 middle ball screen, with the 1 filling behind. And then one other thing our guys like to play out of is toss game. So if X2 here goes under the screen and 2 obviously won't curl it, but he comes off a 5 screen and doesn't have opportunity to get a catch and shoot, or he's not a good pick and roll player, then he just tosses it back to 1. 2 will fill the right 45. 1 will use the toss, and then 5 will come back and set a ball screen. So this is what that last thing looks like. Now 2's on the right 45, and now it's a middle ball screen with 1 and 5. So, I mean, we're doing these things within probably the first. Well, when we do this 5-on-5, if we're working on transition, we give them like 12 seconds to do all of this. So they have to score within 12 seconds. So we're getting to this action probably with around 10, 11 seconds left on the shot clock. So we do this out of open away. And then the last thing that we do, and we do this we do a lot of different pistol actions, but like our pistol action here is just a 1-2 dribble handoff. So 1-2 dribble handoff, 2 lifts out of the corner, and then 5 would just follow this with the ball screen. And with our pistol action, instead of the 3 and the 4 man playing in space, only in pistol, like we play open pistol, only this particular transition set will the 4 man set the down screen for the 3. So all of our sets that happen out of like this drag look, whether it was thumbs down with the drag screen or this pistol action here, we always end this with the rescreen. So if we come out of this, 2 comes out of it, hits 3, or whatever the situation is, or what the defense gives us, then we always end it with our C action. So we always end with the rescreen. So 2 would come back to the left slot, 3 would hit 2 again, and then 5 man after setting the screen and short rolling would come back and rescreen the 2. I don't have that on the diagram, but that's how we would end our possession, and that would take us hopefully to the end of the shot clock. So those are the 3 things that we primarily do. These are sometimes calls, but like I tell our point guard to, especially in transition, to always have 2 or 3 sets to run out of transition without having to play call. And so he'll call that on the fly, or as we're in transition and it's still 5-on-5 and he's given the hand signals for that. But we also have little counters to those 3 sets. So that's not like all that there is, but that's how we try to play out of 2-side transition.
So for the coach who maybe is looking to do two-sided break and then wants to pair it with a half-court offense, what do you feel like fits naturally or fits best with playing two-sided?
I think anything 5 out, and I think the reason why 2-side has become more popular, and I think why coaches are going to like it and why they do like it, is because like the change of the game is kind of more 5 out, and I think that's the trend. So a lot of teams play 5 out. You need a 5 out spacing template for transition, and I think that anything 5 out, any concept that you find that's 5 out, I think will be great for a 2-side transition. Like we still run some horns. We'll still like run concepts that kind of generate stuff through the 5 and the 4 and the horns look, but those are always out of dead ball. Like we're not transitioning to those. And so I think that if you run 5 out, whether that's a dribble drive or whatever the 5 out situation that you can think of, like I think 2-side kind of seamlessly flows into that kind of stuff.
All right, great. Okay. All right. Last thing here. You've shown a couple of these already, But is there anything else game-wise, drill-wise, small-sided game that you would say, do this, or at least while you're introducing it? I had one coach ask, what should, if a coach is running this, like what's their go-to? Like what should they be doing small-sided game-wise, or even 5-on-5 type?
Okay. Yeah, so I'll pull that up real quick. Let's go here. So like our go-to is 4-on-4 continuous, and this works if you have to have 16 players to do this. But like I learned this from Ross, the under 16 coach in Ludwigsburg. He does this 3-on-3, 4-on-4. It just resembles every little like situation, advantage, disadvantage that you're going to find in a game. So I'll explain it here best I can. So it starts off 4-on-4. And you can have a start of circle, like a circle rebounding start. But basically, you're coming down to a two-side spacing template with all of your transition rules. Find the nearest sideline. First player is down, get to the corner. Second player on the two sides, sprint to half court, and then delay from there. But let's just say 1 hits ahead to 3, 3 hits to 4, 4 shoots it, make or miss. They're getting back on defense. So 1, 2, 3, 4 here. As you can see on the right sideline, they're getting back on defense. In order to start the next like continuous action, one of the 4 defenders here will outlet the ball to the 1. And so 1 will get to the sideline, 2 will take off down the right sideline, 3 and 4 designate who goes to talk. Okay, I got corner first. The second guy will get to the 45. And then you see this second phase of the transition right here. So where now the original 4 offensive players are now on defense. The original defenders outlet the ball to the next offensive players. Those offensive players are now on offense, trying to score in transition. And then they will exit off and be the next group to come in. So just continuing with the continuous part. Again, you're looking at all your early and opposite, early and up, dribble push options in the 2 side, and how you're trying to practice it. Let's just say we hit ahead of the 3, 3 drives it, misses it. These 4 players, 3, 4, 1, and 2 in black, get back on defense. One of the players here in red will outlet the ball to the 1, and then we continue with our continuous 4-on-4. Now, what I like about this is it's just quick reaction for offense, whether they get a good shot or a bad shot at the rim in space at the 3, they got to get back on defense. So they got to play 1 possession quickly on offense, and they got to get back in transition on defense. So, I mean, this lends itself to like a 2-on-1 at the rim if the defense doesn't get back for whatever reason, but it also lends itself for the 2-on-1s like on the 2 side that are more, I guess, applicable to what happens in a real game. So you get both of those looks out of this drill. We will play this to 7, 1s and 2s to 7, and we'll play it like maybe 1 or 2 times. And so we do this drill a lot. The next one I'll show here is the 3-on-3 side. So just imagine like the same situations, but since we only have 3, we want to play the 2 side. We just start the 2 and the 3 on one side. The 1 will start on the opposite side. So I won't really explain like what to do here because it's quite obvious. But once X1, X2, X3, outlet it here to the 1, 2 and 3 take off, and then these 3 red get back on defense here. There's the same thing as the 4-on-4 continuous. But the reason why I like the 3-on-3 continuous, we don't necessarily use this drill to teach like 2-side transition because we teach it more 4-on-4, 5-on-5. But like if you're looking at what to do after 2-side transition, like how to flow into a transition set, we use this drill more than anything else to teach those concepts. So if you can just imagine, I'll pull this up here. Let's say we're in open away and it's, we're in this 3-on-3 continuous. 1 will come up, and obviously we're in a dribble push because there's no advantage, or there could be advantage depending on how transition defense is. The 5 will be here, or whoever is our designated 5 guy. And then I'll move this arrow out of the way. Let's just say 2's here. So now 5 will set the screen for player 2, set the away screen. Player 2 will come off this, off the away screen. 1 will play to 2, and then we're into our open away stuff. And we would play this 3-on-3 continuous, like with these concepts, whether that's thumbs down, which is our drag screen, or even with our pistol action. So we would just run the 2 has to fill the ball side corner. So I like this continuous because it kind of lends itself to more than just transition, but you can also, if offense gets the advantage 3-on-2, then they can go to score. But then if it's like obviously 3-on-3, then now they're looking to play out of their transition sets. The next one I show here is 5-on-4 continuous. I stole this one just recently. I was just searching YouTube. I can't remember who it is. So if you like look into YouTube and just put 5-on-4 continuous, you'll find this. But basically it's 5-on-4. Whoever shoots the ball steps out, and then the extra offensive player will step in. So here X3 steps out. It's 5-on-4. 1 goes opposite to 4, then down to 3 on the 2 side. 3 shoots it. Whoever shoots it steps out. So I just put 3 here on the sideline. And then these 4 offensive players plus the player here, X3, on the left sideline, they will now transition into the 2 side with 2, 1, 5, and 4 getting back, as you can see here. So we will find the nearest sideline on this. We make 3 go to the corner first on the left sideline, and then 2 and 4 got to find the nearest sideline. Again, if it's like a 3 side, then obviously you have your spacing solution for that. But it lends itself to a continuous look if you're trying to teach 5-on-4. We only do this for about 3 to 4 minutes because it's quite taxing. We also play to a score, so like 1 and 2 to 7. And then the last thing that we do, and we do this one probably more often than all the other like 5-on-4 drills, is our 5-on-5 line drill. So we do this 2 ways. The first way, when we first start initial teaching of it, we will do this to where we put guys in the spot so that they can, understand what their role is in that spot. So just like any other like recognition drill, 5-on-5, wherever the coach throws the ball to, we throw it to our 1. That defender in front has to go touch the baseline. Sometimes we throw it to the 4, and because we emphasize getting the ball to our 1 on the outlet, 4 has to make the pass to 1, and then we're into our 2-side transition. So basically this is what it looks like. We come down, we're 5-on-4 with the trail entering the play. We teach our transition defense out of this with closest guy stopping the ball or zoning up to the ball. We try to take away ball side hit ahead. Farthest guy protects the basket. And we try to score. And when we go 5-on-4 in this situation, we give them a 10-second shot clock. And then we make 2 trips out of it. So make or miss, the 5 defenders here in red are going to transition back to the other side. Obviously, if they have a 5-on-4 advantage, you're trying to score on the 2 side, but then it becomes probably something most likely like a transition set. 5-on-5, where we're running thumbs down, which is our drag screen, or an open away with a away screen, or even a pistol. So this is like how we are building how to flow from like a primary transition to a secondary transition with these drills right here.